Everyday topics and everything in between. This is Real Free Flowing Words Podcast with TheRhymeRula.
Welcome, and thank you for tuning into Real Free Flowing Words, a podcast about everyday topics and everything in between. I'm TheRhymeRula, and in this episode, I'm joined once again with my friend John, and we'll be talking about the Big Five personalities, or in other words, the 5 basic dimensions of personality that many psychologists believe people can find themselves connected to, or, for a lack of a better word, grouped into. I want to state a disclaimer that John and I are not experts in this field of study and want to merely have a conversation about this topic, which can help us get a better understanding of one another. Furthermore, what is addressed about this topic are interpretations of the data we received from taking the Big Five personality test in ways that we think the 5 personality traits are applicable to us. Before I begin this episode's topic, the poem for this episode is titled Mr. Malcontent. Torn to pieces, deceased friends can never read my thesis. A half-full glass on the table, a silver warm tear shed. The rest saved for tomorrow. Nothing is left unwritten. I kept a paper trail so it ain't no mystery. Got the confidence of nerds in an exam room and the vulnerability of a new life entering this cruel world. Malcontent on overload. A Trojan horse got enough to hold on to for a motherboard annihilation. When rest came, my vexed vein was less strained. I can't complain, melatonin has a hold of my brain. On that note, good night, and will these dreams come fast enough and become vivid once again?
Before getting into this episode's topic, I want to give some background information on what the Big Five personality traits consist of and define them. The Big Five personality traits is a suggested taxonomy or grouping for personality traits developed from the 1980s onwards in psychological trait theory. Trait theory is basically the approach to study human personality. Anyways, in terms of the Big Five, the traits that people can find themselves associated with are open, conscientiousness, extrovert, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So I'm going to talk about them and define them out of order. I'm gonna label them using factors like factor 1, factor 2 through 5. So factor 1 is extroversion, and factor 1 sometimes is given other names such as surgency or positive emotionality. So individuals who score high on factor 1 are usually they're outgoing and social, and individuals who tend to score low on them tend to be shut-ins, or also known as introverts. Factor 2 is neuroticism, and it's also known as emotional stability. So factor 2 is, when it comes to neuroticism, in 2 cases interpretations are inverted. So people who are neurotic usually are anxious, moody, usually irritable, and so forth. And factor 3 is agreeableness. So a person high in agreeableness is friendly and optimistic, and people who score low on them are critical and aggressive. Factor 4 is labeled as conscientiousness. Individuals who score high on this factor are careful and diligent. People who score low are disorganized and impulsive. Lastly, factor 5 is intellect and imagination, also known as openness. So this factor, people who score high on openness are open to experiences. So when I took the exam, I scored high on conscientiousness and neuroticism. So I agree with scoring high on conscientiousness because I believe I do take my time with figuring out the action to take on an issue and the outcome that can occur. So when it came to like an issue where I had to be very strategic about it was when I had a problem with my health insurance, and I had to go through a bit of a dilemma with them. And I was fortunate enough to come out with the resolution. And the thing is, with that situation, I would have done anything to get the outcome I wanted. I had a very litigious mindset. I was going to, by all means, if I had to, get a lawyer and solve the problem if need be. And fortunately enough, I didn't have to get to that point. But
Yeah.
if you want to add to anything, John, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of things, and you went into your like what your findings or your traits are. But I guess I'll give my spin on what the traits are. You know, so extroversion, like you said it. You said, being around groups of people gives you energy, or doesn't give you energy, or removes. And they crave high extrovert people crave social situations. They want to be in them. And low extroversion, they get exhausted by the interactions, and they like to spend time alone, while extroversion does not. And to add a little bit more to your neuroticism thing, it's like it's not just that they have anxiety. It's like the higher you are in neuroticism, the more likely you are to see the world as a threat, most things around you as a threat. So they have a high, like, their emotions, they feel more emotional pain based on that, because they're comparing their fears and whatnot, all the negative emotions that they have, to the outside world. So it's like causes them to put up borders and stuff. When you mentioned when we talked about openness, about intellect, but it's not necessarily that. It's just they prefer intellectual conversations. Yeah. So yeah, anything that's like aesthetic, like beauty and whatnot, they like to talk about that. So any interaction that they have is seek out the those kinds of conversations, like about philosophy, or anything intellectual, ideas, aesthetics. And they tend to look outside of the box. But that doesn't always mean intellect, because conscientiousness is aligned with intellect too, where like it depends on the kind of intelligence you have. Conscientiousness would be someone that's industrious and orderly versus disorderly and like lazy. So someone that's more creative might be more intellectual or productive, rather, in the idea of creative endeavors, like, I don't know, entrepreneurship. Like, although sales might be good for conscientious people, but entrepreneurship, running a business, creating a product, all the things that go like all the other things that are not order. And you might need a few of those kinds of people in your you'd need a balance maybe of that in your workplace. But someone high in conscientiousness, like you said. But another thing is that they also can't stand not doing things. Like, they have to have something to do at all times. If someone high, the higher you are, I shouldn't say most, like, you have to be, like, there's levels to it. Obviously there's a spectrum. This we didn't mention that, but the big five is like you might be in the middle, you might be a little bit less or more. And these traits, they influence your values and the things you think about, what your goals are. Someone that's extroverted might seek out, like, in the workplace or whatever, they want to be around people. So like it changes how you act in the world.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up.
Tidiness thing.
It's interesting you bring that up, because like when it comes to conscientiousness, whenever I have a task, I usually will keep track of whatever I am doing by writing it down and referring back to it if I happen to be confused. So having structure is for me to adhere to is what I think will bring the best results out of me. And I really like, I know I've done it in the past, but like I've been aware of it since like recently, since beginning this year. I've always like written down, when I was in the call center job, I was writing down numbers, everybody who called me, and names and so forth. So I kept pretty much a log and a paper trail, so I can refer back to if somebody were to contact me again so I can refer back to any things that I was might have had issues with. So yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because like me, like, well, I mean, well, I'll talk about readableness in a little sec, but as far as conscientiousness goes, it's weird. I might be somewhat in the middle because the thing that happens with me is like, I think it's my openness that's kind of putting that a little bit astray because I do like structure, but I end up not adhering to it. Like I make a plan, like whatever I'm doing, anything that any project I'm working on. I have some, so I am conscientious and a little bit neurotic. So I guess I would not be low in conscientiousness, but somewhat in the middle. But at the same time, I don't know, I'm, I don't organize. I try to, but I'm disorderly in a lot of things. Like my room might be a mess or something sometimes, and my thoughts, So being conscientious helps me to stay on track, but I don't think it's as natural to me. But at the same time, I feel like I need some sort of outline of something, whatever I'm doing, so to keep me on track. I'm not like full on improvisation because some people are like that. Those people are really low in conscientiousness and they just can't work they don't want to be a cog. They can't work in an environment that has rules and regulation. Well, actually, that's not true. Openness again ties into that. So like if you're low in openness, that's what the kind of thing you want. You don't want change of pace or something because openness people, they break rules. They like to look into things and like that. Anyway, I guess I'll talk a little bit about agreeableness. Like it's basically what you said. What I have is basically what you said, except there's an aspect of um, compassion and politeness. Basically, it's a synonym. All this shit, it's all synonym.
Right.
Like there's the maternal aspect, people that care about other people, like, so they base their lives on like someone that's agreeable. You were high and agreeable, right? Agreeable a little bit or low.
So I got a 40 on agreeableness.
It's like
That's like
somewhat like in the middle, but kind of
right. That's kind of low
like,
still. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
But
so like yeah, someone that's agreeable, like they base their lives on the intimate relationships they have, like something because they're very important to them, the positive relationships that they have. So they want to keep the peace or
right.
positive. They just want to keep things positive. They don't like combativeness or well, I mean, I should talk about something else as well, like the idea of like if you're like the interactions between these kinds of things is like it's not a good idea to be too far on the extremes when you're interacting with, like, if you're not going to have a good relationship with someone that's like super high uh you know agreeable and then super low agreeable, because you're gonna see each other in a certain way. Like a disagreeable person is gonna see someone that's super agreeable as like a pushover and weak or something like that, or people pleasing, or to you know trying to help people too much, or like and then the opposite is like they might see him as rude. Like agreeable person might see someone that's disagreeable as very rude, and so there's this polarity, like how you see people, and like because this idea of the big five is like it's basically like language, like personality based on, because there's already these words that people associate with personality. Like someone that's high tempered is always high tempered. Like if you make that distinction about somebody and they have a bad temper, that's how they are. That's their life throughout their whole life. They might change a little bit, but someone that has a bad temper always seems to have that. Or someone that's more tranquil and doesn't have it's pretty chill, usually gonna be chill. So that's like, despite the big five, people already have these language things that they have but they describe somebody and put them in a certain category based on how they actually behave. But yeah,
it's interesting. It's like a blessing and a curse. It can be a detriment to you for being too agreeable, but it could also yield some positive results at the same time.
well,
But
we need them.
yeah,
We
we
need
definitely
people
do need
that
them. Yeah,
care.
for sure.
Otherwise,
100%.
there's a bunch of psychopaths.
Exactly.
And again, the neuroticism thing, we didn't talk much about that. As we can talk a little bit more about because you are a little bit high. And you did mention
I did. I got a
you're
52. That's like literally half right there. So I'm like,
yeah. But so you're not high. Like, what's your highest? Let's do that.
the highest
I'll tell you all
the
about mine too.
conscientiousness. I got an 80 on that one.
Mm.
Yeah. So those two
And then-
definitely stick out. So 80 and a 52. The 40 was agreeableness. So when it comes to like being like neurotic and stuff, like I found it interesting because I do believe I compile anxious thoughts, and sometimes I do question myself on how people will react and judge me for my mishaps. And usually my anxious thoughts derive from thinking that I'm unprepared with confronting whatever I need to accomplish, and this
Mhm.
can lead me to become, I guess moody and irritable. But I don't think I become depressed. The thing is, when it comes to depression, like I'm sure you know like you can sense you're depressed, but maybe you probably don't know until someone else explains to you like you are like in a state of
Yeah.
depression. You know what I'm saying? So here's the thing.
It's hard sometimes to tell, but yeah.
Yeah. So furthermore, whenever I do feel anxious, I think I try to block it out with with something I find enjoyment in.
So
And
productivity. It's like you
productivity,
use
exactly.
conscientiousness to doesn't have to
combat
be
it,
like
yeah.
work, but
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
And no, it's good. It's and my attentions and my thoughts go to what you just said. I try to be productive and find something I find enjoyment in, and pretty much just narrow my mind into just focusing on that, and just do that. So
Yeah. So those two, and the openness, like again, it's like so you're lower in openness, high in conscientiousness, extroversion kind of in the middle, I guess, right?
no, I scored low on that also. So when I took the exam
Low.
twice, I scored low on the extroversion twice.
So the neuroticism and agreeableness is in the middle. So the other ones.
Yeah, both of them I scored high on both exams.
Yeah.
So when it comes to extroversion, it's interesting because like whenever I don't believe I'm an extrovert, but the thing is, I feel like people who are introverts can, assimilate into different environments where there's a lot of people. Like I go to events and stuff, but in the beginning, I'm very like, I have my guard up. I'm pretty much, I don't know. I want to be present, but at the same time, I want to be in the background. So
you got to get into it. It takes a while. You got to get into the mood, right? It's like
exactly.
You're working yourself up to it because apparently, like in this Big Five stuff, like there is a degree of variability. Like it can move, it can change, bit, and as you get older, you might adopt or like if you're super low in an extroversion, right? Eventually, you can't really tip the scale, but you could get a little bit better. But I think introverts and extroverts are like, in many ways, like very different. If you're somewhere in the middle, you can kind of, like you said, like I don't know, I don't think you're super low, but you're somewhat lower than average.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But,
it's like when when I become comfortable, the people I'm around, my guard goes down. I'm like, oh shit, I'm just trying to have a good time now. So
right then, well, yeah, that's all you need to do. But I think most people can do that, even very low. But it's just like you can only do so much. You can only do that for so long. Like someone with extroversion, high extroversion, being alone is the issue. It like an introvert needs to, after a while, they get exhausted and they go be alone. They have to be, but it's the opposite for someone that's higher in extroversion because they can learn to be alone. Like I was saying, it's the same thing. They can get better at it, but yeah, they'd rather spend time with somebody.
right.
Yeah. And then so I guess I'll talk about my
Sure. Yeah,
from
go
what I
ahead.
know. So like extroversion, I might be somewhat in the middle, but like more more towards, I don't know. I think it's changed. I feel like I used to be more extroverted. I feel like I've gone more introvert, but I don't remember really. But yeah. So extroversion, I think like I'm maybe 30, something like that. And then openness, I think I'm high. I think I last time when I took the test, I think I got like 85, 90 openness. Um, Neuroticism was like 50 or 60, so a little bit higher than yours probably. And and I think I was pretty high and pretty low in agreeableness as well. I think I got like maybe 30 or 40, which is maybe not that low, but whatever. Like maybe
Yeah,
30.
it's still kind of low. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a I took the test like a couple weeks ago. I didn't, but yeah, conscientiousness low. Like probably like 20, but like even people that aren't conscientious, they, in order to structure their life, they have to, like, you can't just always go with the flow. So it's kind of like you need the chaos, because
Mm,
conscientiousness is basically chaos versus order. And
right.
people like need a little bit of disorder, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
And I guess I covered them all.
they're attracted to the mayhem, so to speak, I guess, instead of the tranquility.
Yeah, they're also lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so someone that's low in conscientiousness would also be lazy.
Yeah. So they procrastinate. So you knowing yourself, you procrastinate, right? And I know you, so
Mhm.
you put things off until the
And
due
that's
date.
like the thrill of it too, because people you learn from people that are other people that are procrastinating. It's like they put it off because it gives them some sort of pressure to actually perform. And then when you're under this like time constraint, you actually end up doing better work
Mm,
because of that. Like that,
right.
a lot of people that are that way, they kind of, so they need, that's easily someone that's like low conscientiousness, because someone that's high conscientiousness, they'll plan everything. And very high conscientiousness, like there's nothing goes astray.
Yeah. So there's no room for error. Yeah.
Literally no room. Um, and you know, a low conscientiousness, they want the room for error. That's
Yeah.
how they learn. Most people learn that way, but still, it's interesting. This conscientiousness, openness thing, and extroversion thing is interesting, because there's like these relationships between these. Like maybe some of this high in conscientiousness might also be high in neuroticism, because it's like a coping thing. Like they work together because it's a way that you use your conscientiousness. It's like some people might use their creativity with their neuroticism, like use the pain, whatever emotional, like artists, like musicians. You hear about they live such crazy lives and have such they're depressed or suicidal even, and they somehow the pain allows them to be more creative and make music, make better music. Like you'd think, going, if Kurt Cobain wasn't going through what he was going through, maybe he wouldn't be able to, you name it, any artist. I
Right.
mentioned Kurt because Josh loves him.
Yeah.
But
Right. Yeah. He's a great example. Yeah. I mean,
like if he wasn't going through the shit he was going through, most likely he wouldn't. But at the same time, there's conscientious artists. There's conscience. It's the same.
right.
Conscience, high in conscientiousness and openness. That I don't know how common that is, but because it's like
Yeah.
almost contrary. But yeah,
Here's the thing. Yeah. They both give you the opportunity to be inspired. You know what I'm saying? So it gives you, it doesn't matter if you're conscientious or you're neurotic, you're going to find inspiration from both ends, So
yes,
yeah. Um,
yes, like openness is that. So, um, but also I don't know. Let's see.
and
I was
I
thinking of
sent I
something.
sent a video in the group chat about Jim Carrey. He's kind of a good example because you don't see him that much these days. Yeah, and he's been doing art, and people would, if you look at him, they were like, "Yo, what happened to you? You were like a megastar in the entertainment industry. Now you look like you are just off the rails, just look like you are like, for lack of a better word, depressed. But he's not. This guy is just, I guess
He's
he
going
thinks he's,
through.
you think he probably would say he's woke, but I don't think he even use that word. But
No, I don't know, but no, I think he's gone through this journey, this alternative journey. I think like he was a pretty big star, but then he made a decision. And I've heard him talk about like some um, spiritual stuff too, not just like I've seen. He came back and like he had like a discussion with a few people about his the way that he's reinvented himself in a certain way. So that'll happen. Like and again, like that's what I mean. Like especially if you're an introvert, you're gonna go away. Like I've been thinking about this too. Like like this just might be this like solid. It just there's something about and being an introvert and being possibly being open that creates this like chamber of like solitary like in nature. Like if an introvert goes out into nature, it doesn't even have to be open. They have a better relationship with nature and just like contemplative thinking. Like because if you're spending a lot of time alone, you're really alone with yourself, and there's these things going on in your mind, and you can deliberate on things better. But if someone is highly extroverted, they base their lives on other people, and not to say that's a bad thing too, but it's like there's a social aspect of the world and the way of thinking and the ideas. Like someone that's high in openness and high in extroversion is going to have a great time. Like they're going to talk about ideas. They're going to be like they could be like a very successful philosopher. But then you find about these introverts that don't talk to anybody, and they have like someone like Nietzsche. Like there's these people that go and they read books and they write, but no one ever really. I'm sure he interacted. I'm sure he like had discussions with people. There's not really much really record of that, like debates. So long ago, it wouldn't have any way to know. But to do that in writing, you used to debate people with your books. People would do a response. But anyway, going back to extrovert. It's like more in the moment. You're kind of like dealing with things as you're dealing with people. It's like
right.
It's a whole nother dynamic, interpersonal relationships and everything like that.
Yeah, when it comes to being an introvert, like I think that they can be more inquisitive when they go out, maybe when they look at their surroundings and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Compared to an extrovert who's going to be, for lack of a better word, more impulsive, and they'll just rush into the situation and be like, "Oh, let's do this," so on and so forth. The person who's an introvert just pretty much size up everything that's around them, just try to figure out how they should, approach the situation. So I think that
I don't know, that might have to do more with neuroticism, to be honest. But I literally think the only thing that the difference between someone that's very low in extroversion and very high is like literally their drive to be with people, like literally, and they're just sure they might be more open or not. Someone that's low in openness and high in extroversion, that just means they just like to spend time with people. They're not gonna they're not gonna be interested in new things. Like, oh yeah, let's do it, right? But because they just want to do their thing, and they just want. I know someone that's more like that. Like one of my coworkers, he's conscientious, very conscientious, almost OCD, and at the same time he's very open and extroverted. Maybe not so much open, maybe in the middle open, because he likes culture and like all these different kinds of ideas about different kinds of people and culture and stuff. So he'll talk about his journey, like going to different countries and having these interactions with all these different people. And yeah, I guess like you'll see just like like these kinds of different flavors of people based on these things. It just kind of lines up. I don't know what he actually is, but you can notice these kinds of things. But I don't know, man. But again,
yeah,
Extroversion is interesting, like you said, but I was trying to tie this sort of thing to like what kind of things they bring, what kind of contributions to society would someone that's an extrovert bring versus someone that's an introvert. It's just they're gonna bring people together.
They're gonna bring
Extrovert people
people
like good at
exactly right.
bringing people together,
Right.
like create communities, right? And then you have the shaman that's the introvert. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, like monks and
Anyway.
stuff. They'd be like introverts and like I guess.
Yeah. It depends. If they're all doing whatever they're doing together, then maybe not. Someone that's a monk that's on a mountaintop by himself.
Well, they're really trying to be in a place where they're trying to have solitude and stuff. But they're like you said, they are with people, but they don't want
You're
to.
right. You're right. Yeah.
They don't want to be in an area with people they don't want to, build with or have the same goal with. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to be with you. Like, but
well, that's another journey. Like that whole idea of you got to be pretty. Like being a monk is like very extreme. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I score low on the intellect and the openness. That's basically what it is, intellect and imagination. But I don't know. In terms of imagination, I mean, I don't think I don't have. I think I have a healthy imagination. That's like I can see having a vast imagination can possibly help enhance an experience beforehand. But the intellect part is something I need to look more into. So, but the other ones I understand, like the neuroticism, the conscientiousness, and the.
The interesting thing is like we might have talked about it already. It's like neuroticism is a negative trait. It's not a positive trait. All the other types might be considered like extroversion, introversion might not be considered positive or negative, but like openness is positive, agreeableness is positive, conscientiousness would be positive, but neuroticism is negative. Like
negative, right.
The scale goes. So like on the other end of openness is the negative one, which is like you're closed off and you're maybe not close. Like the reason I mentioned that is because neuroticism might be tied into this thing where it's like, okay, how do you deal with your neuroticism? Do you deal with it being conscientious or do you deal with it being open? Someone that's open, as opposed to like finding some way, some system to deal with the problem, that's what a conscientious person would do. Like whatever problem they have, they're going to use structure to fix it. Doesn't mean you're not smart. It just means this is the way that you do it. If someone that's open is they're going to find other ways. They're not going to use rules. They're just going to like use
unconventional ways, I guess, right?
Unconventional ways of dealing with so that might mean journaling. That might mean drawing, whatever. It's like they're not going to like run their lives a certain way. They're just going to deal with the issue creatively, like an outlet. That like otherwise the neuroticism is going to screw with them. So it's not exactly intellect, because intellect, again, conscientiousness and openness. Well, the reason that intellect is considered openness is considered a sign, like considered comparable to intellect, is because someone that's open to ideas is more inclined to want to learn. Someone is perceptible to like go and check out new things and gain knowledge and information and try to work on a skill. Open to experience, right? You're gonna go seek out skills and do them. Try to learn them, like a jack of all trades type person. It doesn't mean like, it depends on what you mean by smart, I guess. Like someone that's intelligent,
right.
like IQ tests might look for openness, right? But it also looks for conscientiousness. Someone that's good at math might not exactly be open. There's a lot of ways, there's a lot of dimensions to look at when it comes to that. But like openness, I would just say it's creativity, and you can be smart with your creativity or not.
Yeah,
well,
right.
I guess that's the definition of smart, being creative with what your ideas are.
Yeah, having creativity and finding ways to get what you want to get accomplished compared to people who are conscientious, who do things like the conventional way, which is the way I do it. So I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about this. So you're creative. You do creative endeavors.
I do. I mean, I do
You
poetry.
are
I do
high in
short stories and stuff.
conscientiousness. You're low and open, but you do things that are fictional.
Sure.
But what you're doing is you're accounting for society. Like what you're doing is maybe not society, but people. Like what you're doing is you're taking your experiences and what you see around the world, and then you're putting it into, how do I say this? Someone that's creative is imagining something that hasn't happened, or something. It's like you're coming up with hypotheses based on whatever like whatever you're interested in, or whatever. Like it's coming from you. But if you look externally, you can still be creative and be an engineer. Someone that's an engineer finds a problem in the world and then fixes the problem. They're being creative in that endeavor, but they're creating a tool as opposed to dealing with ideas, right? So like it's interesting, this openness thing. It's like basically what I'm trying to say is like you're the kind of person that will tell the story. Like that's why you chose to do what you did. Like your podcast is based on informing people. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Because you're taking information in, and instead of doing something, and you have made creative stuff too, but even it's like it's comparable to like it's like a statement on how the world is, as opposed to just for the hell of it. Some people are creative, they just draw, there's no meaning behind it. They just want to do something for themselves as opposed to something for the world. Some of this conscientiousness is orderly. They care about some of this. I don't know. I'm embarking up like I'm going on a tangent.
No, I get you.
Like
I
not
get you,
real,
man.
but I'm trying to make sense of it because that's part of being open. I'm trying to explore this idea.
Yes, when it comes to my creativity, I am aware of what's going on outside in the world.
Put your spin on it, right?
I put my spin on it. Exactly. I'm very in tune with the external, the world and stuff, and I put my spin on it and put it on a blank sheet, put a canvas and start going to work.
So you're telling a story that's been
telling
told.
A story. Yep.
Probably that story has been told by elders. Probably how many times? Like that's why people. You don't have to create something new in order to be an artist. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking, right?
Right.
Someone that it's like these archetypes. Like think of this big five thing is based on archetypes of personality. And if you understand people and you understand characters and how people are, you can create a system using conscientiousness to understand how people are and how to make a story that'll be relatable and actually help people. So it's like you want to help people, like a thing. I think of it this way, like this is how people, like morals. You write morals. You basically, it's a moral. Whatever you like, as opposed to someone that would write something for themselves, you write something for people.
Yeah.
That's why you're doing this thing, whatever you're doing. I was sure I would write stories, but I don't want to share it with people. It's different.
Yeah.
That's openness.
Here's the thing. I mean, I don't only write it for
be...
myself. I don't write the stories and the poetry for myself. Obviously I'm writing it for people to enjoy, to comprehend, and to give me feedback and stuff, So there is a give and take relationship right there. It's like at the same time, it's like we are respecting each other's time and each other's creative space. Especially on the blog site that I put my content on, it's a community that is very open. We use the word open a lot in this episode. So they are. I've come across a lot of people who are creative, and there are people who are conscientious with the conscious stuff that they write about. There's a thing in hip hop. There's conscious rap, bro. Conscious hip hop. You know what I'm saying? That's a good example, right? Boom. So you got, I don't know, a guy like Common or like or like Most Def, or so on and so forth. These guys are I guess you can call them conscious rappers because they definitely spoke about uh dire things that's going on in our community, in the world and stuff, in the Black community. So it's
Yeah, if you care about what's going on in the world, right, and you want to find a problem, that's someone that's industrial revolution, right? You're trying to solve problems, and being orderly means like you're trying to create rules and ways that you can do that. So yeah, you said it yourself. And someone that's low in conscientiousness, in that way, that's why conscientiousness is IQ as well. Like you understand the problems in the world and you solve them.
Yeah.
But also someone that's low in conscientiousness, they're not going to care about what's going on in the world. They just want to do what they want.
yeah.
They're disorganized. They're trying to fix their life. They don't want to fix other people's lives.
So people who are low on the conscientiousness, would you say they'd be more selfish in a sense?
No, I think that's neuroticism.
Okay.
But they're lazy. They're lazy and they're disorganized. They might care. Like that's caring is agreeableness. So
Right. Okay.
they might care about the world, but and what's going on in the world, but they might not have a solution. Conscientious people look for solutions, but someone that's low in consciousness does not look. They're not that productive either. Remember, like conscientious people are very productive and hardworking. So if someone that's not that, they're not going to even try to do that as much. They might just be, if they're open, they're going to just be creative for the hell of it, as opposed to someone that's conscientious. They actually put something out in the world. That's the point I was trying to make. Like, yeah, you can be creative still, but your approach about creativity is more external.
Indeed. Yeah. That's definitely how I perceive it, and I execute my work. So
yeah, you do. You're good at it too. You get shit done, man.
I do. Thank you. What else? So you went through agreeableness, conscientiousness on this is on your end. I've already completed mine.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
You did
Did I go through
extroversion.
everything? I did I did everything, I think.
Neuroticism, and then openness. Oh, yeah, I think you did do all of them.
Yeah. Let's see, what else can we talk? Yeah.
And it's an easy way to remember this too. The openness,
Ocean.
conscientiousness, ocean, right? It's the acronym OCEAN. For anybody who wants to remember all of them in order, just look at the word ocean. You just put
Okay. Another thing, we should talk about maybe the extremes a bit more. Like, let's say, okay, someone that's very high in neuroticism, right? They're kind of like, they're like, those are the kind of people that end up being suicidal or end up doing something. Depends on whether they're suicidal or like murderous. Probably depends on whether they're agreeable or disagreeable, right? So like someone that's agreeable would never hurt anyone else, so they're gonna end up hurting themselves, right? So that's if someone that's very neurotic, they're gonna do something. They're like literally they cannot live in society. If they're like so high, or someone that's very low in neuroticism that might be a bad thing too, because they don't give a shit about anything. Like, well, maybe no, that's wrong. That's definitely wrong. It just means that nothing bothers them. That's a better problem. It's not they don't care. It's like anything. Nothing. That's the best way. They just don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
You know what would be a good example for that? The two brothers in 2013 who did the bombing in Boston. The older one, I guess he could be high in neuroticism because he was, I guess, radicalized and wanted to end people's lives during the Boston Marathon because he believed he was so like devoted to Islam that he was like, you know what, I gotta fulfill my mission and
that's conscientious too.
Exactly. And his brother was could have been high in agreeableness if you look at it this way, because he was like, you know what, he's my older brother. I gotta.
Here's the thing. That's a common thing in partners that do crimes. It's like there's this highly assertive, highly dominant guy, most likely, because most men are disagree. Like, I think that Jordan Peterson video said like if you compared a men to a woman in population, 60% of them are more likely to be agreeable, higher agreeable. So like most of the time, men are going to be the disagreeable ones. So anyway, but it's obviously men can still be agreeable. Anyway, yeah, just to bring that dynamic, it's like the partnership's like abusive relationship. Like they'll follow whatever the hell the other person does. It's like Stockholm. So yeah, that's interesting. And let's see, we did agreeableness. We know, no, we did neuroticism. We know the extremes of that. So the agreeableness, let's get into that. So like someone that's high, oh, we did talk about that. Like extreme agreeableness would just be like really like to their own demise, super caring. Like they'll sacrifice themselves for other people, and they'll never fight back. Like someone that's that high would probably, I don't know if they even exist, but
they'd be very passive.
They don't last long. They won't last long. Yeah, they're very passive, like too passive.
Okay.
And they they just don't live. They don't do well in society. You kind of want to aim for the middle, or a little bit more, depending on the trait. And then someone that's super disagreeable. Those are the people that end up in jail. Simple as that. They just, or they die. They
yeah.
It's like they can't function in society. And I guess the conscientious one is self-explanatory. Like the extreme would be like someone that never gets anything done, someone that doesn't, never even does anything. Maybe they just chilling smoking weed all the time. I don't know. But and then someone that's highly conscientious that might be very successful. They might just like become a CEO or like of a huge business, and they work like 80, 90 hours a day even, and
right.
They get no breaks, but they don't want to break it. They can't even take a vacation. So that's why you need to be paired with someone or be in a community with a balance. You need a little bit of like leeway. I just don't think people that have such high traits would even function like well in the world. The high openness, that's another thing. Very high openness versus very low openness. I don't know. You could compare like very low openness to like, I don't know, like I don't know how much like society affects that though. Like someone in North Korea and Nazi Germany that has low openness, like very low openness would just follow anything to someone, right? Because very low openness would be like they just want simple shit, like simple. That's also conscientious, right? I don't know.
People who are, I guess, they want simple stuff compared to the complex. They want the easy answers, the easy route compared to, having to work too hard for it. Then I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like openness would be like, because you're low in openness, like you want the like your strategy would be the simplest strategy. Like in war, like you would want like simple directions. Like don't leave anything up to interpretation. But when someone that's creative, they don't want the constraint as much. Well, conscientious. That's again. I keep thinking of conscientious when I say that, so I'm not sure. But no, actually, simplest way to put it, it really is like very low openness is just narrow-minded. They don't even care about like philosophy. They don't care about any of that. Anything that's not of the real world, something that I can do. I don't know, like. That's why someone that's low in openness might be great as a mechanic. doesn't really want like a mechanic security, simple jobs. It doesn't mean they're dumb. It just means they're practical. They just want to live their lives in a practical way so then maybe they don't want to deal with some ideas, and then they might also be stuck in their ways and believe things forever.
It's interesting. It's interesting you bring that up because people who do the blue collar work would definitely need the white collar people, and they're on the both ends. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who do the blue collar work don't want the abstract, lifestyle and the jobs and stuff compared to the people who do white collar work, who do the abstract and do board meetings and all that other stuff.
Right.
They see each other basically like every day. You know what I'm saying? They bump into each other, so they have respect for one another. I'd say so. It's
Right.
mutual
Right.
respect. So
Well, the thing and the thing about in the workplace, like talking about agreements and disagreement, like if you're like there's like a small amount of psychopaths that slip through and make it into the workplace and get successful, make it. But like most people are like somewhere in the middle of agreeableness because they know how to cooperate with people. Like you can't. That's what I meant by like you can't function in the world because if you're so disagreeable, like everyone, you're gonna show them attitude every time you see somebody. Like there's zero tolerance. Like, and you're not even gonna. So you need a little bit of, like so to be a good leader, I guess you would need a good amount, like somewhere in the middle at least, of agreeableness. You don't want to be a pushover. You don't want to be, too demanding, or otherwise people think you're a jerk in the workplace. And you want to be a little bit open. You want to be a little bit extroverted,
yeah,
probably.
yeah,
You want to be able to deal, like, delegate. If you're you have to be able to have good communication skills.
yeah. You want to create that rapport to then
Yeah.
so you can actually get shit done. So I mean,
Yeah, as a leader, it's a little bit different. Like as an employee, you might need a little bit of something or else because it depends on the workforce. Conscientious or conscientious. Yeah, that's why. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I haven't really thought about these associations. 'Cause, like conscientiousness, low conscientiousness might be aligned with high openness because like they just seem to come and go together. Like in low openness and high conscientiousness. That's why I kept mentioning that. Like they seem to go together. Like, and the same thing goes for maybe like agreeableness and extroversion, right? Most people that are extroverted are agreeable because you know, they're polite because they know how the world works because they're social. They're compassionate. They care about everybody in the world if they're healthy, right? And they want to create a positive environment. That's someone that's so most yeah. And you could even say that so if most women, if 60% of the population are agreeable, then they're more likely to be extroverted too. So maybe men are more likely to be introverted. So if there's these associations, like I don't know what other associations, what other associations do you think could be made between these traits?
so that's a good question. Any of the five? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, that's a good question. When it comes to like
Um,
agreeableness, people who wouldn't be agreeable, they would, yeah, they just basically would disregard things that you would want them to, see you agree with, like, hey, yo, I want to do this, da, 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 da. I'm like, nah, or it's there's a rebellious mindset when it comes to people who are not
yeah,
agreeable. You know what I'm saying? And people who are not conscientious, obviously people who are disorganized and so forth. I really don't know the flip side to all of them, but some of them,
mm,
like the agreeableness one, I can definitely immediately identify. The people who are neurotic, I I guess people who are neurotic are just very just chill. They're just level headed. They don't have to. They're not really.
people that are not neurotic, because like someone that's neurotic would be
Yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
of the things.
People who don't exhibit
Yeah,
a lot of neuroticism. Yeah, they would be level headed and relaxed and so forth. Excuse me, I'm my bad if I.
right. Yeah, well, that's interesting. Like because someone could be very low in neuroticism. So hey, here's another here. Like I think you're on something. Like, because here's the thing, because like someone that's low in neuroticism most likely also could be, but that doesn't really account for me, but lazy, disorganized, because they're calm, they're chilled, nothing bothers them. Someone that's high in consciousness might be high in neuroticism. That's another association. Because
Right.
it's like yeah, so someone that's low in neuroticism might be chill all the time and relaxed and not carefree,
Right.
and they're not gonna care about being productive because like nothing's forcing them to be productive. Like, there's no negative emotion. So when someone is high in negative emotion, it's hard for them to be very low conscientiousness, because if you're like, you have to find some other outlet. It's like maybe like comparing it to me, it's like, okay, if I'm somewhat high, I have anxiety, right? But I don't feel depressed. I don't, like you mentioned that, but I don't really get depressed. I don't know. That's why I said, like, some people don't feel depression in the same way. So that's
right.
probably because of my disagreeableness. Like I maybe I tend to blame others more. So I wouldn't be depressed. I would be combative or confrontational. So it
Right.
would be different. But yeah. So like so if I'm higher, a little bit higher in narcissism, I use the outlet of openness instead of conscientiousness. That's what makes me more or less, a little bit less conscientious, because I have another outlet. So that's why you're high in conscientiousness, because that's
Right.
your outlet. And less. So I mean, and there might be a polarization going on. Okay.
Right.
So someone but my question is, where's the like high openness, high conscientiousness? I want to see that person. That's that's gotta be like someone that's like a freight train. Like they're gonna not only are they creative, but they're productive.
Yeah. Right.
And if they have extroversion too, oh my God,
Yeah.
that's the next leader of the world. Like that's I'm exaggerating, but still, because other people have other things in their lives that contribute to their success and stuff. So
Yeah, it's like the trifecta of productivity.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like extroversion, openness, and I don't think there's a lot of people that are very high in all of those. It probably happens, but
You know what I just thought of right now? If you're low on conscientiousness, that would mean people who are low on conscientiousness would need something to hold them accountable. You know what I'm saying? So accountability is another thing too. You know. So when it comes to when it comes to school and stuff, you were procrastinating, but you know that the class or whatever, that your grade, it matters whole lot to you, because this counts for a whole lot of your grade. And you're like, damn, I gotta the professor is gonna hold me accountable,
right.
and my grade is gonna be in jeopardy if I don't get this done. So that is what's gonna hold you accountable. Me, like I already know that from the beginning. Like if I don't do this thing immediately, I'm gonna, be
it's gonna have
lethargic.
negative effects. Like, yeah, that basically that every little thing, every little problem that could happen, if you don't deal with it now, it turns into a bigger problem.
Exactly.
And you deal with it now because it's the 2-minute rule. You know about that?
No.
So the 2-minute rule is anything that you can do in 2 minutes, do it now, whenever it comes to your mind. Anything you can do in 2 minutes. If you like look around you, I don't know. Oh, I gotta take out the trash. My thing's full, right? I could get up and go do that right now. In 2 minutes, it takes 2 minutes. I could just do that, but I don't. So, but someone that's conscientious, they notice something that needs to be done, they do it. You don't know about the rule, but you probably do.
I'm following everything you say, and they completely, yeah. I'm just like that, because I always when I see the trash is full, I'm like, I gotta get to that. I gotta,
right.
I gotta, tidy up my room whenever I see something misplaced. I'm saying,
right. But someone like me, it's not natural, so I have to. That's why I know about the rule, because I was looking into how to be productive. How can I be more productive?
Yeah.
So like productivity for me is like I find tools that'll help me do it, to be on track, or like alarms, reminders, all these things. So like, yeah, you're right. Like you were saying, you have due dates. You have like a good thing for procrastination that I learned is like, if you have a due date, set your own due date a few days before the due date that's actually due, and then forget about the actual due date. Like,
right.
So and then when you're done, like then submit it a couple of days before. Like it has to be done. Even if you're gonna procrastinate, give yourself 2 or 3 extra days. So that's one way. Some people, they just can't do that. So the best way to do that is like literally give yourself a buffer. If you think the due date is this day, when it's actually a couple of days later, you're gonna definitely get the thing done, because then you're not gonna be late. You're actually gonna be early.
Yeah,
But
you be ahead of schedule. I like that. That's what I usually did when I was doing group project stuff like that. I would be like, I got my portion of the project done. What about you guys? We're in a WhatsApp. What's up? I'm like, I'm good. And somebody else is doing something that on the project that is due within the next few days. Like, so and so, you got to get to this because it's due on that day. So because it's gonna be all of our asses if you don't get it done on this
right.
day. So that's what I was
I
like. This
think,
all goes
yeah.
back to accountability. So
And the neuroticism really goes into it because, like, again, I think that was your point. Was that your point? If you're low in neuroticism, no, your point was about conscientiousness.
yeah,
But
it was conscientious. Yeah,
someone that's low in neuroticism also probably needs those kinds of
reminders, right? I guess.
those kinds of what's accountability, because like then they're not going to do it anyway because they just don't care. It's not a problem to them. They're just so they might need the same kind of accountability. Like I think that people that are low in conscientiousness already have the accountability. Like they still have the accountability. They still know they have to get it done. It's just that it takes them longer, and then it's harder for them to stay on track. But someone that's like low in neuroticism might not have a reason, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. They just understand that. You understand conscientiousness,
Sure.
right? But someone that's low in neuroticism understands that it's not a big deal, as opposed to something like me too. You and I,
Yeah.
if there's something that's troubling us, we have to deal with it because it's causing anxiety.
Mhm.
Someone that's low, like the other day, like, is the fucking stove? Did I lock the door? Is the stove
Right.
is the stove still on?
Yep.
Someone that's low in neuroticism be like, it's probably not. I'm good. I'm all set. And then they come home and they find out, their house burnt down or some shit. But like, it's not a problem to them because it's like okay, if my house burns down, I'll probably just deal with it, do something about it. They don't think about the possible consequences because they're like, they might even think about it. It's just like hey, think of it this way: neuroticism is a negative trait, so you don't want to feel so much negative emotion. So you can still be very productive. So that's what I mean. Like the pinnacle of like person probably has like high low like medium to high extroversion, high openness, low neuroticism, medium agreeableness, and somewhat high actually I'm not even sure about conscientiousness, but you might need a conscientiousness, like maybe middle conscientiousness, because you might need some leeway. But yeah.
It is interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to look more into this because this is we're just talking anecdotal stuff, but we're just tying all the stuff we learned into our experience. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
Jordan Peterson talks about the workplace and agreeableness. Like he says, like, the reason there's more women is also, he talks about interest too. There's interest involved, but like women are more agreeable. They're less likely to ask for a promotion. They're more likely to keep the peace. They don't want to, like someone that's disagreeable kind of like dominates the environment and takes over and takes charge of things and does like someone that's why, in a combative or competitive environment, maybe, in the workplace where they, you have to work so many hours and do all this shit. It's not the work. That's why there's different professions for different people. Like women end up being more likely to be nurses because they're high and agreeable, and care about people. They want to help people, so they go end up doing that as opposed to being a tycoon. And then openness is its own thing. Neuroticism is its own thing, but like conscientiousness, yeah, like I guess like that's the biggest difference. But there's this, everyone's on some level of it, and then like again, like it's you hopefully meet some people that'll help you. It's like, okay, someone that's so neuroticism, right? Someone that's high in neuroticism, if they meet someone that's low in neuroticism, they'll probably end up like calming them down. You know what I mean? Like if they're in a relationship with them, they're like, okay. I'm freaking out. Don't relax. It's all right. Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. We'll be fine. It's like the positive emotion, negative emotion. Someone just create a better environment. So someone So same thing. You don't want someone that's exactly like you, and you don't want someone that's extremely different, like very different. But you want someone like middle ground. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
man, that's good. I don't really know what more to add on my end, because I really need to look more into the openness. This is on my end. Just think about it for myself and just look back on experiences I've had in my life and think of how I scored low on the openness. I answer all the questions with honesty and extroversion. I already know I'd be, even if I took so many exams, I'd still be low. I just know myself. And I know when it comes to conscientiousness, I know myself that I am conscientious. There's certain things you already know about yourself. You don't really need an exam. This goes back to the time you were saying you can, notice a person's personality without even, and their habits and stuff without this exam. You don't even need to. You can just notice the way they conduct themselves,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, this whole idea of okay, think of it this way, you're down to earth. Doesn't mean like I understand they're confront, it's the idea of openness, what it means. It's tough because I don't know what it's like to be you haven't, me, think of it as it comes to interests. If you have so many different things going on in your head, it's you can't, you have one interest or two interests and you stick to it, and that doesn't mean you're not. I'm looking at something real quick. Let me see. Someone that's low, narrow interest, not analytical. That's not true. I'm probably reading some trash. So dislikes change. That's a big one. If you don't like to change, it's nothing. I don't think it has anything to do with intellect. Whatever your source was.
Right.
I think it's just literally new. Do you like new things? Do you like new ideas? Your imagination.
Yeah. So you are open to experiences. You're open to experiences. Yeah. Okay.
And your imagination is okay, that's a different thing. It's when it comes to imagination to you, you're comparing it to. That's why I tried to make some association with the real world. You're comparing it to the real world, what you're seeing around. It's and then you use that information in the real world to be creative. But someone that's high in openness doesn't, they might be off in their fucking cabin in the woods, just coming up with random shit, and then that's not the same. I don't know, but go ahead, do your own
I'm gonna do my research more on this, and we talk more about it another time. But this was good.
I want to thank my guest and good friend John for joining me in this conversation. For more information on this podcast, you can go on realfreeflowingwords.blog. And if you enjoy listening to this thought-provoking episode and would like to listen to more, subscribe on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. The show has been brought to you by Anchor, which is providing a great and easy-to-use service for new and seasoned podcasters. Lastly, thank you for listening to Real Free Flowing Words with TheRhymeRula, and it's been real.